Got your project, AJ. It's fun to hear. I'm still shocked at Mallory singing, so that was it's always a fun surprise. We had some both tracks in one session. We had talked about that in class, sort of the mixing issues with that, and some pretty big other fundamental issues. So let's address those. One was you sending this whole track to the stereo mix via the sends and the channels. I don't know why that is, and that's sort of confusing to me. It took me a little bit to figure out what was going on when I was solo something and I was hearing all the other track. Then I realized that you were sort of double sending things up here and across the board. That was the case. So I don't know why. Maybe you can help me figure out why that is. The other one was we've talked about keeping things off the master fader. You had this, which is making the whole session pump and sort of act differently. So I took that, bypassed that. That's a big issue. Finally, all the plugins directly on the channel. We're mixing our 5th and 6th song, and we're still doing that is somewhat troublesome. We've gone over it a lot in class. So that we're still seeing that inserted, which is then playing with both the compression and this mix changes the volume. So if you want to change mixes, the volumes and increase or decrease reverb, that's fundamentally changing volumes, and it's limiting, and there's a number of other reasons why we stay away from this, yet it's here on every track except the tambourine. Now with the tambourine, you did some automation with the triangle automation, but you did it to the default 120 beats per minute, which is not the tempo of this session. Now, whether it was played to a click track or not, you can still identify beat. So if you're going to do volume automation that's going to do something crazy, and I'm not a big fan of it, but if you are, that's fine, then it should be in tempo and time, and this is not in time. So what you can do is still find a loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So you can identify the beat here, and it thinks it's at bar 5, beat 2, sub beat 818, but we can just say 5 and not 7. And our tempo will come up not at 120 beats per minute, but whatever it says, 129.3350. Basically, probably 129 beats per minute if we were to play to a click track. And they could have, and that would have been cool, maybe a drum loop instead of a click track. Then when you do this automation, it will at least been in time with what's going on as opposed to being out of time. So that's one of the reasons that I'm not a fan of it, is that it's moving in sort of not in a way that I'm not really understanding. So even without a drum track, you can still identify beat, still identifying that loop. So the mandolin track, for being the pickup, sounds good. He is not playing light. I remember you saying there was he was playing so light. I'd be very curious, but maybe he was. It doesn't sound like it because maybe because the compression is slamming so hard. The guitar compression. Now this is all different because I've turned these EQs, the reverbs off, so it's hard for me to judge what's going on because in this case it's going high pass filter reverb compression, which is not a path or an order that we've talked about. So, but high pass filter into compression is fine, and if you're going to do any subsequent EQ, I'm not saying you need to, especially because the tracking's actually, this tracking sounds good if I were just to turn all the effects off. I'm sorry. So, I've just got that loop on, don't I? Oops. So we've got the acoustic guitar, which is nice starting off part. Excuse me. And these clips are probably from me turning things off, so I don't think the session was clipping. I don't mind that. And then we've got this. So, like I said, this is all different. And you can hear, oops, that's my computer. and we're just hitting it way too hard. So you're doing this really aggressive compression on something that's a little, I mean, it can be with sort of Abbott Brothers and stuff. They can certainly get a, but it's just entirely too aggressive. Again, it's built off of this volume, so I'm not going to change it. If you want, we can go through and we can look at the session, start from scratch. But high pass filter, if we're going to do any gate, and in this case, we definitely would not gate the acoustic guitar. Any sort of trouble in the vocal, as far as you've already taken care of Mallory and got and eliminated bleed and other stuff you don't need. So that's a better way to gate it. So that's kind of cool there. The channel fade ins were good. So a couple things, good things going on with that. But some other fundamental issues just with this being routed, reverbs on the channel, and then, you know, really hitting the compressors a little too hard. So let's back this down. Let's start with the factory default. Okay, so in this case, we're not doing anything. And what we've got, it's looking, so it's definitely going to get louder. So I'm going to go to the louder section. There we go. You can see we're doing about 3 dB there. For this one, maybe just a hint more, but it's really capturing right there. And that's even a little. Now we got the volumes the same, so we can go back and forth. And listen to what we're doing. So that's about where that should be set at. Then if we want to send it to the reverb, we would choose a bus. And I'll make one here, not pre-fader, because we're doing reverb. And we would send this, make a stereo aux track, set this to the same input. Let's move, it's not going to let us do, oh, it is going to, okay. Mix is 100%. Oh, and then I'm going to bus this. There we go, bus 1 and 2. I chose that. Okay, so I've got my busing it to the reverb. I'm sorry, sending it to the reverb. Got my input to the reverb. I got my output both through the speakers. And then as I it's a little big. And you can see that's. And then I can take my voice. Let's take Dustin's voice, and let's send him up. And then we've got this one taken off his channel. I can't relate to how you have fears today. This fairy tale. So you can see now I'm just using the same reverb, and I'm sending both these tracks. I see what I did here. There we go. Let me get rid of this one. Sending both these tracks to this reverb. I can't relate to how you have fears today, but this fairy tale. And that's a little bit that is how reverb, we are sending to the reverb. Back this up. See, that's it. Then we want the release to get back by the time he starts the next line.
You have fears today, but this fairy tale is more fiction. I can relate.
Now we got those two set correctly. Hope that helps figure out a little bit more about streamlining this process and getting the proper techniques in place.